I'm Jerry Savage, and welcome to this episode of The Savage Edge. As I prepare for these podcasts every week, and the last couple of weeks I've done interviews, and several before that I did solo, like I'm doing today. And it's like anything else. To have it come off correctly, you got to prepare. But when I do these podcasts and when I'm doing them solo, I don't usually have a script. So I've got a script here, right? But what do I got to do with this script? Honestly, I got to throw it out the window. Why? Because today's podcast is about thinking on your feet. Thinking on your feet when you're sitting down. I am sitting down. And the reason I'm sitting down is because when you think about people who are thinking on their feet and you go, wow, that guy can really think on his feet, or that girl can really think on her feet. How did they get that way? They got that way thinking on their seat. I know that's kind of a twist on the whole thing here, but the point I'm trying to make is they got there by practice. So thinking on your feet doesn't happen instinctively. Oh, to a certain extent. But when you're responding in a situation, you're responding because you've practiced, you've prepared, you've gone over it in your mind, you've gone over it in your mind's eye. And if you've done it enough times, when something happens in a conversation or a sales call or a meeting, your response is almost immediate and it feels natural to the people that are with you. And that's because you've practiced it over and over. So while you've gone through it, and maybe sometimes to you it didn't seem very natural, but when you were in that situation and you responded, it seemed natural to everyone else. And so that's what you need to do, especially for you younger salespeople who are going out and making your first sales calls. And for even those that have been in sales for a long time or in business for a long time, just in life in general, you have to think about when you're preparing for that sales call, guys and girls. I know you've got your bag with all your clinical articles if you're a medical device, and you've got your samples and you're ready to go, or you think you're ready to go. And then you get in a situation and somebody says, well, what do you got? What are you here for? And you panic and you don't respond well. You think you've prepared, but what do? You reach into your bag and pull out that article or pull out that sample, and you begin to do the feature benefit dump. That's what I like to call it. And why? Because it takes the pressure off of you. It takes the pressure off of you. Now you don't have to converse, right? You've given that product or that sample to the person you're speaking with. Well, what's the problem with that, guys? The problem is that you lose control. As soon as you give that to someone so that they can look it over, they've taken their attention off of you. And that feels good in the moment because it relieves your stress, but you also lose control. So let's back up a minute. So when I talk about preparing, you've got to have a roadmap. Yep, that's right. A roadmap. Like when you go into an office or a meeting or wherever you're going, you've got to have a map. And you've got to draw that map out, just like a road map. Like, here's my stop sign, here's my left, here's my right. And you've got to memorize that map. So when you get into that situation and something happens, like, well, what do you got for me? Your response is automatic, right? You know what you're going to say, and it's natural, right? So it's like when I'm preparing for a meeting, I want to know a lot of things, right? I want to know what my outcome is. So before I even go to the meeting, I say, well, what's my outcome? So there's my endpoint. Going into the meeting, right? I know who I'm meeting with. I know where I'm going. But when I get in that meeting, I better know what it is that I want from that meeting. Otherwise, I meander and I get off course. And then what happens is you end up losing control of the meeting, and that person ends the meeting on their terms, not your terms. So a roadmap gives you a pathway to follow to get to that point in the conversation. right? Now, if if you don't have the roadmap and you're wandering and they end that conversation, you're never going to get to the next point in the sale. Now we talk about, in the four pillars, honesty, integrity, knowledge, and genuine interest in people. And the genuine interest in people is a pathway to a successful life and a successful career. And why is that? Because genuine interest in people allows us to find common ground. Common ground means, getting to know that person and you're interested in them enough to find out what they like and what they don't like and where they've been, where they're from, and all those things that make up that person. And so as part of your homework, you've been building your roadmap to a successful call. You got to find out as much about that person that you can if you haven't seen them before. So I've gone off on a tangent here a little bit, but just to say that thinking on your feet isn't so much thinking on your feet as it is preparation, and the preparation allows you to respond quickly and naturally, and it appears that you're really thinking on your feet. So that whole piece with the compass, right, is so important. There's been so many, metaphors, analogies made to a compass. And, I grew up hunting in Maine, and I can remember my father and I getting lost in the woods. And I tell this story in the Four Pillars of Sales that, yeah, I got lost in the big Maine woods and I was scared. I was like 13 years old. And my father had hunted for years. The thing about the woods is this: it's like you got trees in front of you, so you can't see where your destination is, right? So you've got to trust. And what do you trust in? You trust in your compass. If you put your compass in your pocket, then you lose your map, you lose your guide, right? So this is what happened is one day my dad, who was really good in the woods, was walking through what we call a cedar swamp in Maine, and on a cloudy day. And the worst thing that you can do is, because you have no reference point to the sun or anything, to check your position. And remember, you got to check your position. And even in a meeting, you got to do a gut check your position. Where are you? Are you where you want to be? And that requires looking down at your compass. So 3 hours later, we're walking in the woods and we stopped, and he pointed up and looked up, and I looked up and I go, yeah. He goes, you see that? I'm like, yeah, there was a big piece of metal from an airplane or something in the tree. He goes, we walked by that 3 hours ago. And all of a sudden I realized we were lost in the woods, the big Maine woods. So what did my dad do? My dad sat there and thought about it for a few minutes. I think he actually drew in the snow. And then he pulled out his compass, his roadmap. And so he started checking his compass. We picked a direction and we walked. And we came out of the woods in the dark in the night. We almost spent the night in the woods, but we didn't. I'll tell you, as a 13-year-old kid, I was relieved. But I think about that metaphor, right? It's the compass. You've got to plan out your day. You've got to follow your compass. And if you don't follow your compass, you'll wander off course. And if you wander off course, you lose control. And you can't lose control. And this all comes back to preparation. They say that preparation is the mother of skill. So when you're actually, in a sales call and you respond quickly, it's because of preparation. You've developed a skill set based on your preparation. And part of that preparation was not only the research you did on the customer and the research you did on the needs of that customer, but it is also based on the fact that you can now do things almost automatically. It's like the dancer, right? Adrienne Townsend, Dr. Adrienne Townsend, posts a lot on LinkedIn, and she shows a lot of her dancing with her dance partner a lot in Italy. And it looks so seamless, right? Why does it look so seamless? It looks so seamless because she spent countless hours on the dance floor getting it right. And for me, when I think about, you guys know, I haven't got Charlie with me today, obviously, but, riding and doing it right. I've showed videos where it looks flawless, where I've gone around jumps and hit every spot, and won competition. And why? because I had a lot of falls. I had a lot of missteps. I had a lot of what we call chips. All practice, right? Practice, repetition, 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 mother of skill. And then you begin to visualize and you begin to see. So when you've had a successful sales call, you've got to stop and visualize what went right here. What went right? And that's what you want to replicate time and time again. That's what you want to do. So thinking on your feet, no. Thinking on your feet comes from preparation. And preparation is the mother of skill. There's no doubt about it. So when you start preparing for your next sales call, think about a roadmap. What's my roadmap? Where do I want to go with this call? Because when you walk into an office, you're the only one that has the map. And if you follow the map, you can guide the rest of the people along the way. Yeah, using the pieces of the 4 pillars that I talk about a lot, so that it's not canned, not contrived. You're not trying to do any of that. All you're trying to do is follow the guidelines that you put in place so that when you get a roadblock, and you will, when you get an objection, you can handle it seamlessly, flawlessly, so that it seems like it just flowed through the conversation. And that's what you need to do. And if you do that, you're going to be successful. Your next call is going to be successful. And you're not going to have a successful call all the time. There's going to be roadblocks that you just can't get around that day. But that's okay. Because if you keep following through, plan and visualize, repetition, the mother of skill, you'll get there. I promise you. Hey, I'm Jerry Savage. This has been The Savage Edge. I'll see you next time.